Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast, Fulfillment in Faith. I am your host, Shannan Mondor. Today's episode is a continuation of my series, You Are Not the Only One. I was brought forth to do this series because during my healing from my addiction to alcohol, there were so many times that the universe had brought me to my silence. And it was during those times was when so many things about myself I had learned, and I was guided. I was guided to talk openly about my past, my abuse, my addiction, and to speak my truth. From those moments of silence is when we learn, we grow, and then we teach others, which helps others. Today, I have a very, very special guest. Her name is Danielle Hall, who is here to share her story. So welcome, Danielle. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely wonderful, wonderful. So, I'm so blessed to have you on this podcast of mine. And I know you have an amazing story that you are going to share with the audience. So if you can please, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then if you want to continue on and go into your story.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name is Danielle Hall. I go by Passion, the Lioness. Passion is actually an acronym. It stands for Plans and Sessions Set in on Novels, because I'm right. And I write, and the Lioness actually comes because I'm a Leo. I'm born in August 4th to be exact. A little bit about my story. I am from Fort Worth, Texas. I had a rough childhood. From the age of 8 to 12, I was raped and beaten by my stepdad. He was also abusive to my mom. And so growing up, I was like, I'll never be like that. I'll never let a guy do that to me. And of course, life happens and you end up being in the same kind of situation, not the raping or anything, but just like abusive men, the cycle, and just like wanting to be loved, searching, for any type of affection, So I stayed way too long in many relationships just to have somebody by my side, like it's crazy. When I was about 18, I tried to commit suicide. Life was just too much, like I just felt like I didn't really want to die, but I was just tired of feeling hurt, So it was just like, Lord, just stop this pain at least for a minute, And it's crazy because it was actually on April Fool's Day. And so a lot of my friends and family, they thought like it was a joke. And one of my cousins, she was like, it could be a joke, but it might not be. And so she reached out. She kept on calling. I shut my phone off. I shut my phone off. I didn't want to be bothered. I took a whole bottle of pills and NyQuil. It was just like I just wanted to stop the pain. And so my mom, she wound up taking off of work early, and she came home and I could hear her, but I was like I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I was just like stuck. And the paramedics came and they had to he was like, well, if you don't drink this charcoal, I'm gonna have to pump your stomach. And he asked me, he was like, well, what is your favorite drink? I was like, vodka. And he was like, well, you better pretend like it's vodka. That was like the worst. You can definitely tell I was at a low place. Like I just didn't care anymore. And like, of course, like now it's still like I still kind of have those thoughts, right? But I know how to process it better,
Right,
you know. So
right.
that's why I love what you're doing here and, sharing your story with others to help others progress and let them know that they are not alone, because a lot of times we feel like we're alone. Even when we're surrounded by people, we still feel like we're alone or we don't necessarily belong, and that's not a good feeling, Nobody wants to feel like they're just there, like, oh, like we invited you, but we don't really want you here. And so sometimes we can be our biggest enemies. Like
Oh
our
my
mind can
goodness.
be
We can be our biggest enemies, and Yeah, like because we live in the present past the majority of the time. And whether it's happy or sadness, which is our present past, right? And when I find myself in my present past of things that upset me or make me sad, at least I can acknowledge that I'm in that. And because of the mindset that I'm in, and I study mindset and I teach mindset. But there are so many out there, and you know just as well as I do, that they are stuck. They are stuck in that present past and they do not know how to get out of that. And that's where we get locked into that depression, that angry, that anxiety, all of that. And I do get stuck in it. But like I said, at least I am aware of it, and I know how to get out of it. And that's, I'm very blessed. And that's what I want people to know, and why I do these podcasts, and I want people to share their stories, because there's so many people out there that have experienced the exact same thing as you. It may not be the exact same thing, but there are things within your story and my story that resonate with people out there. And to know that they are not alone. And that was the best title I could have ever picked for this podcast. Actually, I didn't pick it. The universe guided me to that actual name. So I will not take credit for the name of my podcast. I give the universe credit for that. Absolutely. But I do have a question for you. So because the environment that you were brought up in, which was extremely damaging, was a normal environment for you. So that is why you were on that vibration, and that is why you had attracted all these other individuals within your life that had hurt you. I look back at, with my mother, with the abuse that she endured. How is your mother's life changed? Because that was a normal situation for her too. And now that your vibration is elevated and you do not accept that anymore, how has your mother elevated with you? Or has she elevated with you? This is a pretty deep question. I get that and I understand that, but it was just something that actually popped up in my head right now. So
As far as like the men aspect, like she don't have any type of relationship like with men. It's kind of like she is scarred, she watched those types of shows like For My Man and all that. And I'm like, I asked her like, why do you psych yourself out watching that type of stuff? And she was like, I'm not psyching myself out. Like, that's reality. Like, there's crazy people out there, and you just have to be like, it's kind of like, I don't want to say she's stuck um from the tragic situation, but it, like I said, it definitely scarred her.
mhm.
But my mom is like a very strong woman. Like she's very independent. She's always been like that. That's like me and my mom, we're more like sisters than mother and daughter. Like we have that strong bond. Like we're 20 years apart. Like that's my right hand. Like,
Beautiful.
most of the time, like, if I'm out, I try to bring her with me. My
Mhm,
mom, she don't really like she say, "I don't like to fraternize." Like, she's very to herself, she's very reserved,
mhm.
but she has been coming out more and out of her shell, and I love to see her growth. But like I tell her, like, as far as, like, relationship-wise, I would love to see my mom in a loving, nurturing relationship, but she's just like, she don't wanna go through it no more. Like,
But
she's just
but you
like,
know what the
"No."
But you know what the beautiful thing is, Danielle, is because your vibration has shifted to a higher elevation, and your mother is actually open to receive. So that's why she's following you, and that's why you guys have kept that beautiful bond. So that's beautiful all in itself, like absolutely beautiful. So yeah, so that was just a question that I had. So okay, you can continue on with your story.
I do wanna say one thing though. I had like a women empowerment, um, kinda like tea party event, with one of my, my co-host was Jocelyn Janae, and my mom came, and she's not a speaker, but sometimes I like to bring her up and just give her her props and her dues or whatever. And so we got to talking, and the ladies were like so inspired, but like by like our bond, and they was like, they wish they had that type of bond with their mothers. And it was just like so emotional. Like it was so powerful. Like, you know how you have a plan, but like say for instance, I have this list, right? And I write how I want everything to go, but very seldomly, how often does it go exactly the way you plan it, right?
Right.
So the day started off rough. Like I was just like, I'm not on time. Like my hair not done. Like oh my god, like everything. I'm apologizing to everybody. They were very understanding, right? But then as the event started, like the atmosphere started shifting, and you can feel that presence, like the spirit, like God was definitely in the room. And I was so grateful because what I thought was a disaster ended up turning so beautiful, and just like everybody just being themselves and just literally being open and receiving the word.
Yeah.
So that was just so good. Like sometimes we just have to allow God to move how he wants, because if we try to do everything ourselves, it's not gonna work because it's not aligning with your purpose. And that's very important.
Exactly. And that, like, that's the biggest thing that I have learned too, is when I sit still, and that's what all you women were doing, for this tea, you guys were all there for one purpose, which was allowing and receiving. And so that was your guys' common bond. So I could just imagine when you were saying that you could feel the presence, you could feel the love in there. Like when you were describing that, I could totally feel that, because I've been in totally like many situations like that, but we've all got that one common purpose of being there. So that all on its own is absolutely spectacular, and your mother telling her story, like I could just imagine how that had touched so many women within that tea. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So thank you for sharing that little tidbit too. So just and I'm excited for when your mother hears this podcast, you know,
Yeah.
because she's just gonna
Hopefully
be so.
it'll inspire her to tell her truth more. And I always tell her she don't have to feel sorry for what somebody else did. It's not her fault.
No, because all of us have that shame in us of some sort of degree. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing that freed me was speaking my truth. There's a lot of people around me that did not like me speaking my truth, but you know what? That's okay. That's really okay. Those are situations and things that they need to deal with, that they have not dealt with, or that they don't want to face, or that they're in denial about. And that's okay. But at least I was able to get my story out for me to be able to speak my truth, because I would have never been able to get where I am today. Because my goal is to help so many people out there in this world to start sharing their story and to release that fear, that lack of self-worth, that anxiety, that depression, whatever that they've got within inside them. And the only way you can do that is to start speaking about it and to release that from your body. And what better way to do it, so and to help so many people out there. It's so that's my goal, that's your goal. And that's why we're here together, and I'm attracting so many people to me now because they want to share that story, and because there is that common bond within all of us. And what a better way to change the world, to shift the world, to take this fear and anxiety out of people's lives and to give them strength, hope, that vision of where they're going and what they want to be. That's what's incredible
It's
to me.
all a process.
It
It's
is.
definitely a process.
And it's not going to happen overnight.
Mm-mm.
Not going to happen overnight. That's one thing I've learned. One of my biggest gifts is patience now, right? And time, there should be no such thing as time anymore. Time
You want
is,
to hear something funny?
tell me.
I said if I ever have a daughter, I would name her Patience.
Oh,
Because I literally like that's my biggest struggle. Like I don't have any patience, but children, they're a blessing, but you definitely have to have patience
Oh,
because
yeah. Well, I love that name now. Patience. That's a good one. Oh, and you know what? That is a perfect name. That is a perfect name. Okay, so let's continue on with your story, Danielle.
Um, well, that's kind of pretty much it, in a nutshell, just like trying to figure out who I am and my worth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you don't truly know who you are, you allow other people to treat you any kind of way and tell you who they think you are. Like when you're confident in yourself and you know your worth, you're not going to take just anything.
No.
Like, and it's hard from the people that you love the most. It's like they know your triggers. They know how to get up under your skin, and sometimes the enemy, they'll use it to their advantage because like it's like you don't want to let go because you love them so much, but sometimes you have to love yourself more.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
So
So
I do have a question though. So after, you tried to commit suicide, and then so you hit rock bottom. There's no question that you would hit rock bottom there. What was the process after that? Because I have been there. And what was your process after that that made you start to look at life differently, that made you want to live? Because things definitely would have been brought forward to you of, okay, I have to change within me. What are the things that I need to change? What were your things that made you want to change, Danielle?
well, I used to always write, and my inspiration for doing poetry was this show called Moesha. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the singer Brandy Norwood.
No.
Used to have a show called Moesha, and she would do like these open mic nights where she'll read her poetry, and I would be like, I want to do that. Like that's so cool. Like I want to do that. And so like I'll practice doing like my little writing and my rhymes and stuff. And so when I tried to commit suicide, it was a guy in it was this place called Trinity Springs. It's like I don't necessarily like the term crazy house.
Hmm.
Um but, that's where they take you after you try to commit suicide. And the guy was like, "You don't seem crazy. You just seem like you've been through some things." He said, "What do you like to do?" And I said, "I like to write poetry." And he was like, "Let me hear something." And so um I read the poem titled Me. That was my first poem that I ever wrote. He was like, "Baby girl, that's good. I really want you to do something with that." I was like, "Yeah, okay." He was like, "No, I really want you to do something with that." And so I looked online for open mics or, poetry in Fort Worth, and I ran across this guy named Michael Gwynn, and I started out in a poetry slam. And I don't like competition, but it was like it gave me a adrenaline rush, and it just made me feel good. And so after that, I started doing open mic, and I started meeting different artists, different poets, different musicians. Like it was just like it was a safe space. It was a place that I can just go to relieve my stress and share my words. And even if I didn't want to get on stage, I got inspired by other people sharing their experience or their talents. And so I remember this one night I got on the mic and I shared a poem. And this older lady, she came up to me and she told me how I inspired her. And at this time, I was like 19, and I couldn't process like how can I inspire somebody that's older than me? But it doesn't matter the age, you can always inspire other people. And so it made me feel good, and that was like the turning point for me, just knowing that my words do matter, my life matters, and it's helping other people. But then I got to that low point again, and the words became too much. And so I started my modeling journey. That gave me that confidence that when I lost it in words, the beauty, it became like, my natural high. it made me feel good about myself. It made me feel comfortable. And then other people got inspired and they were like, I just love your photos. I just love your energy.
Mm.
And sometimes I do want to address that. Sometimes we feel like we have to put on a mask, because we've been doing it for so long, right?
Mhm.
But it's okay to have bad days. We're human. So, even to this day, I struggle, but I love who doesn't love feeling beautiful? Who doesn't love feeling like, somebody cares about them, like they're important, right? So, yeah.
When you had said, you had went through another low point,
Mhm.
and then that was when you started to find your beauty and you started modeling. That all in itself, like I look at that, and that's not a coincidence. You were meant to go through that depression low point again, so then you could find that beauty. And a lot of people, I think really need to hear that, and that's why I'm pointing that out. So I don't look at circumstances as my past or anything as me feeling sorry for myself or any regrets at all, because I know those were the things that I was meant to go through. And like I look at your story too, and that's the exact same thing, right? So you write poetry, you're a model, and like you're becoming very, very successful. You're this bright, beautiful, woman, that has gone through so much, and you are such a mentor to so many people out there. So that from your journey that you've experienced so far, what is the one thing that you have learned the most about yourself, Danielle?
I learned that it's okay to take time to learn yourself, love yourself, and allow room to grow. Everything happens for a reason. Nothing happens by chance. And like you just have to, of course, there's gonna be good days and bad days, but you have to continue to push forward. If you give up, you don't have a chance to turn it around. If you give up, that's the end. You can't come back from that. But if you allow, okay, and even sometimes it may not even be a bad day. It may be a bad moment. But if you sit and soak in it, it's going to turn into a bad day. And then it's going to turn into bad days if you keep on prolonging it. So you have to find what works for you. Get into your zone, find out what works for you. Even sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I put on some music and I just feel like I'm on top of the world, or I'll read a book, whatever is, your thing. You have to find out what works for you. But yeah, it's just know it's all a part of the process. Another thing, I have a condition called hidradenitis suppurativa. I got it when I was 18. It started up under my underarms. It was like bowls, like are you familiar with like cysts?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
they started up under my underarms, and I thought it was because somebody had used my deodorant or something. I'm like, who did use my deodorant? But it's a condition that grows in your sweat glands. So anywhere that you sweat, you can get those bulls. And in a time like this, like the summertime, is the worst. Between 2018 and 2019, I had 5 major surgeries. They took out my sweat glands and my underarms. I had surgery on my groins. Um, um, I had surgery on my legs. The HS, they feel like it caused a cellulitis in my leg. And the most painful part was when I had to get the wound vax. Like, I do not want to experience that ever again
So do these cysts just keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Like,
until they pop.
is it like these pockets of sweat turn into cysts and then they pop?
Yes.
My goodness.
And they hurt so bad. And sometimes they have like a smell to them. Like, and just think, like, with the modeling, okay,
Mhm.
before I got my sweat glands out, like I would have to go through that, like with the draining and the stuff like that. So like I would always like feel self-conscious. So like when I'll do my pictures, I'll kind of try to like, hide it. And so the photographers, they would tell me like, I got you, like just, loosen up, lighten up, we can always fix that.
Right.
And so like I built these relationship with these photographers, and that's another thing that helped me kind of get comfortable too, and just embrace the journey, because there's nothing I can really do about it, because it's
That's a part of you now, right?
yeah.
Those scars are a part of you.
And even after the surgery, like it might not come back in that place, but it can come back in another place. So it's no cure for it.
So how are you dealing with that now? Do
I
you,
actually have to have another surgery on the 23rd.
okay.
So this one I'm not really worried about, but I have to have another one in the front part. And that's the one I'm worried about because they're suggesting that I have another wound back. And especially in that area, I'm just like, Lord, I know it's gonna be so painful, because when I had got both of my underarms done, they took out my sweat glands at the same time. And
Okay.
so that pain, Lord, it was so bad that when the care like the wound care people came, they didn't want to change it because I was in so much pain. Like I would scream so loud. Like it was like they were ripping the skin off of me. So they would send me to the hospital, and the hospital would be like, well, you have wound care, so like it's nothing that we can do. So we just like, ooh. But one of my caretakers, she got me these headphones to kind of like take my mind off of it. And I was so appreciative of her for doing that, because I didn't even think about it, right? Because like sometimes we psych ourselves out because
Yeah.
we already anticipating the pain,
Mhm.
right? So like the music would kind of help me take my focus off of it, and just close my eyes, and then I'd be like, just rip it. Just rip it, just take it off, right? And that's kind of how life is.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you just head in first, and just if you know what you're expecting, you just go through it and allow the process to keep on going. Eventually you'll get through it. You'll
Mhm.
grow from it. But if you try to take the easy route, you're just gonna prolong the pain, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Yeah, you've been on quite some journey, for sure. So, where where are you now in your life? Like I want you to talk a little bit about your website and all the different things that you're offering for individuals out there. So if you can go into depth on that.
Right now, it's still a healing process, but I feel like I have overcame a lot. And so I feel like my experiences will help a lot of people in a sense of knowing your true worth and knowing that, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm never far away. I'm always a phone call, text away. I do offer services for poetry or public speaking. I have a book titled Danielle Unfolded by Passion the Lioness. You can also book that at www.passionthelioness.com. Right now, I'm just living life and enjoying the moment. You know, Sometimes we have to go back to the past, not to dwell in what we've been through, but just to see, like I said, the growth. Growth is a beautiful thing. You don't want to remain stagnant, so of course, in the process, you will see everything moving along and you will see the beautiness of it.
Mhm.
It's the beautifulness of it is just like, sometimes you just look back and you just be like, wow, like that was me. I went through that, but I can't accept all of it. God definitely brought me through a lot. Like there's many times where I just cried and I prayed. Sometimes I didn't even have the words. I just cried and, just asked God to lead me to a better place, or, just ask God to keep me going, because sometimes I didn't have the strength to keep going. I
Right.
just I gained so much weight just with depression and anxiety. Right now, I'm trying to get my life back. I'm
Mhm.
trying to get this weight down, trying to get more healthy, and just I'm happy to have my smile back. I'm happy to have joy.
And that's the thing, right? You are progressing to that place that you want to be, and you're talking openly about it. And you know, you are such a beautiful individual. And as you're growing, you're attracting all these amazing people into your life that's taking you to your next level of growth. You know, which is amazing. And that's what people don't see or understand. As you grow, you're bringing in all of these beautiful people to help you to get to that next level. Once you're at that level, more people are going to come in to take you to that next level. And yeah, you can see it with you. And I'm so blessed that you know, are sharing your story. You're doing your thing. You know, and question, where can we, so we can go onto your website and we can order your book off your website, correct?
Yes.
Is your book also available on Amazon? Is there any other outlets that we can order your poetry book?
You can order it through, if you email me, I can send it to you that way, or if you're local, we can meet up in person. Yeah, so I don't do Amazon because they take a big cut, right? And who wants to pay a big cut, you know, when you can get most of your benefits yourself. So no, I haven't did the Amazon. Now I do have it on Kindle version, but the paperback I decided just to sell it outright, you know.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so anybody that is interested in Danielle's website or her book, her poetry book, and any questions for Danielle, all of the information is going to be on the notes in the podcast. So you just have to go onto the podcast, click down to the notes area, and that's where you're going to see everything regarding Danielle. So at this time, Danielle, I do want to thank you so much for being a part of my journey, being on my podcast. So I thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me. Also, don't forget you can always follow me on Passion the Lioness, all social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Passion the Lioness. You can contact me if you're feeling like you want to ask some questions or just need somebody to talk to. Contact me and we can
That's
have a
perfect.
conversation.
Yeah, that's perfect. And like I said, everything is going to be in the notes. So feel free to get a hold of Danielle. She's open to communicating with whoever wants to have a conversation. So yeah, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. In closing, if you like this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. I want more and more people to hear all these amazing stories that are being talked about on this podcast and this series. You are not the only one, because we are not the only one. There are so many people out there that are going through so many different situations right now, and they will connect with one story or another that is being broadcast on this podcast. Also, I would like you to go to my website, shannonmondor.com, and check it out. And you can look at my one-on-one coaching that I offer, and also my Fulfillment in Faith program, which is a 6-month personal development program, and it will change your life absolutely, completely. And I designed this program myself. So thank you very much. And I want to thank all of my audience listeners for listening into this program today. And like I said, if you like, subscribe and tell your friends. And I want to thank Danielle one more time for being a part of my journey and being on my podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.